Yo, what's going on, snipers, and welcome back to New York Islanders franchise mode here in NHL 25. So in last episode, if you did not catch it, we did a lot of movement trying to figure out who should be our next center for this team because we needed better center depth. So we brought in this Jocelyn guy from the Minnesota Wild, I think it was. Yeah, it was Minnesota. And so far, he's been actually a pretty solid fit. You could see his 17 points in 22 games. Obviously more of a pure playmaker, but very excited that we brought him in because guys like Mäkinen and Ashton have dropped off a decent amount. So it does give us a little bit more solidity down the middle, which is a great thing. And so far, this team has been a little bit inconsistent to start the season. We are 12-9-1. We had a good first month. The last month so much was like a little bit like back and forth, but we do still have an above 500 record, which is good. But we are second place in the Metropolitan Division despite this kind of mid-record, so hoping that this team could kind of figure itself out a little bit more consistently in this episode. But with that said, let's get your guys' comments, see what you guys have to say about last episode, and then we will continue to simulate. I don't think we're going to make any changes too much early on here, just because we are only at November the 30th at this point in time. So the first and only comment is from Michael Dose, who says, "You did more work as a GM in this video than my Blackhawks GM does, lol. I wish there was a way also to put post on smart TVs. I watch every episode though." And I appreciate that there, Michael. Yeah, I kind of wish there was a ways to comment on like videos and stuff like that on TV. It's kind of weird. I feel like that you watch me on a TV just because I know there's people that do watch YouTube on TVs, but I've never watched like any like video game content really on TVs. It's more just like in real life content. So I appreciate that though. And to say that I do more work than Kyle Davidson is pretty funny, but it was a lot of work that we were doing in the last episode because we were looking at multiple different centers. We were kind of just figuring out which one would probably be the best fit here. And I think we probably made the right call with bringing in Jocelyn from the Wild. There were some other options that are pretty similar. Some of them were a little bit more cheaper on the contract side of things, but it seems like Jocelyn has the best results in terms of everything. Like, he's got good offensive awareness, good passing. His shooting categories are not too bad. His defensive awareness and stuff like that is the main thing why I brought him in, because he's a good defensive player too. So he's kind of a nice little fit for that third line to help us play better defensively in that bottom six role. So I think we made a good move, but obviously it took like 30 plus minutes to figure out which center we actually wanted. So it took a good chunk of last episode up. Anyways, with that said, I don't know if we want to make any line adjustments before we start off this episode. Now, like I said, this team has not been simulating the best so far, but we are still technically second place in the Metro. So I think for now we'll probably keep this lineup the same, but obviously if there's any pending issues, we could obviously make some more adjustments accordingly. But I think for right now, I'm kind of fine with the way it is. I don't really like scratching somebody like Markstrom, to be honest, but it's probably the best play for our team at the moment to have him scratch because he's 24 years old. We could always take somebody else out of lineup or trade somebody on this roster, but I think for now, I'll probably keep it like this and hope that it starts to simulate a little bit better. Alright, so let's see if this team could kind of figure itself out a bit. Like I said, if we don't really simulate this good in December, maybe there's a chance we'll start making some line adjustments, or we might have to think about trading people out. But obviously right now, I kind of just want to see if this team will continue to play as inconsistent as it did in the last episode. So let's hope that we can kind of figure our game out a bit here. Alright, so a decently busy start to the month, but then it kind of slows down a bit because we have 4 games in each of the first 2 weeks, then 2 games this week, and then we don't play again all the way till this day. So there is a pretty big gap between games here, which is nice, but obviously our team has a lot of games early on, and this could help decide if we're going to be a playoff team or not this season. So let's go through 4 games at a time, kind of take it a little bit slow. I don't think we're going to get the rest of the regular season done in this episode, but obviously if our team's doing really well, maybe there's a chance, but there's likely I have plans of simulating up to the trade deadline, and then we could obviously make adjustments at the trade deadline in next episode if there's anything that's like kind of glaring. So let's go through 4 games at a time here. We got the Rangers, who haven't been good as of late, and we lose to them 2-1 in regulation. We do beat the Kings, though, and the Jets, so at least that's a good response after losing to an interesting team. We also beat the Jets again. So 15-10-1, still looking pretty decent at this point, now on a 3-game win streak. which still has us in second place in our division. Only 1 point back of the Blue Jackets, but they have 3 games in hand at this point in time. So let's go through another week and see if this team can continue its winning streak that it's currently on. The answer is no, as we lose to Chicago. Boston is also a loss. Minnesota is a loss. And Chicago, again, is a loss. So, yeah, this team is very inconsistent right now. We were just 15-10-1. Now we're 15-14-1, which doesn't look as good. And that's also a very bad week for our offense. Defensively, it's not too much, but offensively, not really there. So let's maybe make some forward adjustments into our lineup a little bit. I don't really want to overcorrect here early on, but I don't want our team to fall out of the mix of the playoffs too easily. So let's get Dempsey on the top line. Actually, wait a sec. We'll go back to our original top line from last season, I think it was. So we'll go Ragnarsson, Mäkinen, and Crane. We will try Harris on the second line with Kazanov instead, because Kazanov's a pending free agent, I think, so he should be similarly good. We'll do Dempsey, Jocelyn, and Trotter. Keep the fourth line the same. Defensively, this top 6 pairing has been a bit abysmal, but I don't think there's really anything else I could do to it. And then goaltending, we'll have to keep that the same as well. So let's keep that the same for now. But a couple adjustments in the top 9 just to see if that could get our team's offense getting better. Because right now, if we look at our team stats right now, right, you can see we're actually now a top 10 defensive team, which is fantastic. But we're 18th in goals for, which is not really good, and 27th on the power play, which is also not good. So we're still more of a defensive team than an offensive one. So if we could find our offensive game, that would be a huge help in terms of winning games. So let's continue to simulate. We did just go on a big losing streak, so I'm hoping that all of a sudden we could go on a nice winning streak to kind of combat that a little bit. So let's go through these 2 games this week, St. Louis and Edmonton, and see if we could start winning some games again like we were at the beginning of this month. There's another loss, so that's 5 straight losses for this team, which is not good, and Edmonton is a 5-2 win. Okay, that's good at least that we beat Edmonton, who won the Stanley Cup last year, but still. This team is definitely having its struggles here early on. So we are 16-15-1, and we only have a couple games left this month. So we're kind of just staying right around 500 at this point, which honestly might not be a bad idea. Make a wildcard spot, make the playoffs, all that stuff. But obviously we kind of want this team to simulate a decently amount in terms of being good. We don't want them to just barely squeak in by 1 point and then obviously find themselves out as a first-round exit. Like, we want to have at least a good run this year. So let's go to the end of December. We got 4 more games left. We got Florida, Buffalo, Detroit, and Ottawa. So basically a lot of Atlantic Division teams. Let's see if we can beat them, and maybe it'll help us out a lot. All right, let's see what happens. Game against Florida. Can we get off the schneid a little bit? No, we can't. We lose another game there. I might have to make some more adjustments before we simulate more. Buffalo is a 5-1 win. Nice little victory there. And Strombo has been injured with back spasms. That's unfortunate. We'll just replace player with a depth defenseman. We lose to Detroit in a shootout. In Ottawa, we win. So a decent end to the month, but we're 18-16-2. We have a lot of regulation losses at this point. I don't even know if we're technically a playoff team right now. Let's take a look at that here in a second, just to see where we are in terms of the standings right now. So if we look at like the Eastern Conference right now, I think we're not in a playoff spot at the moment. It looks like we're in 11th place at the moment. Last playoff spot in our division is in the 8th spot right now, which is Carolina. If we go back to the Metro. Yeah, Carolina has that by 1 point, so it is still a very tight race, of course, which makes sense. We do have 2 more games played, though, than Carolina, so we got to find ways to win more consistently coming up. All right, so let's go back and see if there's any adjustments we could be making potentially to our team, because I don't really like the inconsistencies, but maybe that's a good thing. Who knows? But I think we got to move Jocelyn higher in the lineup. So we're going to move Jocelyn to our top line center. Mäkinen, how good has he been? 28 points in 36 games is really good. We're going to move Ashton down to the third line center. He's got 22 points. Jocelyn's been really solid too, 24 points. So I think Ashton being the third line center is what we're going to roll with. And then from a defensive standpoint, is there any pairing that works not that well? Jersina's -9. Yikes. Everybody else is good plus minus wise though. So Let's maybe do a small adjustment. I don't know if it's good for the ice time purpose, but let's get Jersina to play with Smith. And then we will probably go Ekblad playing with Strombo once he's back. Strombo is only down to a 75, so he might be still losing morale due to ice time. No, it doesn't look like it. But once he's back, hopefully he jumps up enough. If he doesn't, we might need to look for a new top 6 defenseman to play on that pairing, because that pairing hasn't been good so far. How has our goalies been so far, out of curiosity? Bergenheim's rocking a 914 now, so he's figured out his game quite a bit. Irwin's rocking a 908. So yeah, the goaltending has not been the problem, which is interesting. So it's definitely just like the lack of offense and why we've lost some games, I think. So let's continue to simulate and see if this team starts to figure itself out a bit. Like I said, if we're continuously losing and winning back and forth, we might barely make it into the playoffs, but we got to be very careful here not to over-simulate and then our team ends up missing. This month of January is going to be very telling if this team is going to be a good team or not. So let's go through a couple games at a time. We have 2 weeks we'll go through. We got a game against Ottawa again, Calgary, Edmonton, Vancouver, and Vegas. So a couple of home games and then a couple road games in a row. So let's see if this team can start figuring its game out a bit more in the second half of the season. We lose to Ottawa. Calgary, we win 4-1 though. So still showing that inconsistencies from earlier in the season. Edmonton's an 8-1 loss. God damn, man. I know that they just won the Stanley Cup, but still. And Crane has separated his shoulder. Oh, boy, that's a substantial injury. Let me replace player and stop the sim. Strombo's back too, which is good, but Crane has definitely had some injury concerns the last 2 years, but he is pretty old at this point, so kind of makes sense. But this is a really weird season for this team. I almost feel like we might not even be a playoff team if we continue to play like this. Which is not what I was expecting. Let's go to Harris on the top line. And we'll get Markstrom to get to play some second line time, I guess, with Makinen and Kazanov. Sure. And we'll stop the sim here once it actually stops. Tuomo Ruutu. And Tuomo Ruutu, that's not the actual Tuomo Ruutu, but that's funny as hell. We're going to decline that. Let me stop the sim because I can't see what's going on. We lost 9-5 to Vancouver, so 2 terrible defensive games in a row. And we're now 20-19-2, so we're still really struggling here in the early stages of the season, which is not great. Wow, all right. Let's go back to the updated wildcard standings in a sense just to see if we're actually in a playoff spot or not. We're third technically in the division, so technically we are actually in a playoff spot, I think, but we have a very mid-record. Guys like Carolina, who are not too far off of us, have games in hand. Same with the Flyers. And you can see they have better points per game percentage. So technically on paper, we're on pace to miss the playoffs, I think. But we need to figure ourselves out a bit here. Because, yeah, we're technically in 9th place. But since we are in the Metro, we're actually in a playoff spot. It's just the Atlantic Division must be super strong right now. Yeah, the Atlantic Division is crazy strong. Everybody in the Atlantic Division is almost above 500, except for Florida. So that's going to be tough. That means we need to probably lock down one of the top 3 spots in our division, which means teams like Carolina, Philadelphia, even technically teams like the Rangers, Caps, and the Devils are still not too far back of us. So we got to be very careful here, and we need to figure ourselves out a bit. I don't know if there's a coach that works better for our team than the current head coach or not, but let me actually go to the coaching staff for a second here. What's the fit like with this coach, out of curiosity? I know he's an A+ coach. 65%. That's pretty solid. I could look at these other coaches and see if they'd fit better, but I don't know if that would be a great idea or not. We don't have... Oh, no, we do have a goalie coach. I was going to say we don't have a goalie coach, but it looks like we have all the coaches we need. We should be simulating decently based on those coaches, too, in my opinion. It's just more about, like, the chemistry isn't, like, the best on paper. Trying to think if there's anything I could do to readjust this and get things going a bit. Let's go back to Makinen top line. We'll go Jocelyn back to the second line. And then defensively, I guess we'll probably keep it like the way we have it right now. Yeah, or we could move Schaefer to the second pairing for something small. But Schaefer I don't think is on the power play, so I kind of want him on that top pairing. Irwin is there. Yeah, okay, well, let's just keep simulating and see what happens. But I kind of feel like I shouldn't be simulating too much in this episode, but If we could just figure out our game, win like 10 in a row, that will make me feel a lot better. But obviously, if we lose 10 in a row, it won't. So let's go through another 2 weeks, see if we could stay above 500 and kind of find our way a little bit so we could maybe lock down that third spot in the Metro as soon as possible. I know it's going to take a long time still, but there's another loss over to Kings. And we do beat the Rangers, though, so we're still having that like win-loss type of ratio, which is not great. We do beat Tampa 6-4 there, so that's good to see. We're not going to make any trades right now. Washington, 3-1 win. St. Louis, 2-1 win. And Vegas is a 4-3 shootout loss. That's a pretty good stretch, though, for our team. Because obviously there is that shootout loss, but that's still a point in 5 straight games, which definitely could help us a lot with determining if we're a playoff team or not. So let's get through the last 3 games of January, and we'll take an updated look at that wild card scenario, or that playoff scenario, I should say, in Eastern Conference, because it's probably going to come down to the wire at this point. And Crane is back, so we did just have 1 regulation loss during that span when Crane was out. So Markstrom probably did a pretty solid job. Yeah, 3 goals and 4 points in 9 games. That's definitely not too bad for a young depth forward. Almost said the defenseman for some reason, but we'll get Crane back in. We'll keep Crane on the second line now, I think, just for the time being, just to shelter him a little bit. And San Jose is a 4-3 OT win. So, yeah, it's a very good stretch for our team, especially beating teams like Carolina. We only had 1 regulation loss to end off that month. So the team is starting to figure its game out a bit. But obviously, there's still a lot of season left to go where we could completely fall out of the mix. So let's take an updated look at the standings again. And we'll continue to simulate probably to a day before the deadline. But I'm hoping this team has now turned its page in terms of the playoffs. Because we are still in that 3rd spot in the Metro. We're on 55 points. The next closest team has 52, and that's Philadelphia. And you have teams like the Rangers who do have 2 games on hand on us, but they're 6 points back. So there is still cause for concern here. But it's definitely a lot better, the situation, than we were in before. If we look at the Eastern Conference in general, yeah, we're still technically 8th place. So, yeah, you look at, like, the if we go to the Atlantic Division, technically everybody in the Atlantic Division now is above 500. So, only these 5 teams that are up and above are actually going to make the playoffs. So, Ottawa, despite being good, and they're not in a playoff spot. Toronto, despite being good, not in a playoff spot, and same with Buffalo. So we're lucky that we the setup for the playoffs involves 3 teams at least from the Metro. So we're kind of lucky that it's not like all 8 of the playoff teams are going to be from the Atlantic Division. So yeah, I'm kind of glad it's not like the old format, I guess, or else we would not be in the playoff spot at the moment, I don't think. Actually, maybe we still would be, but not by much. All right, let's continue to simulate a little bit more. See if this team's continuing to find its game again, or if we're going to fall off in anything. We're still an okay defensive team, but we definitely don't really have a standout stat at the moment, because you can see we're kind of mid in everything. Our power play is definitely not very good, but that's definitely something we could look to address at the trade deadline, is bringing in maybe an actual scorer if there's somebody that's underperforming on this team. So let's get through this game against Detroit. We don't have any games afterwards till the 10th, probably the Olympic break. So game against Detroit is a 5-4 shootout win, so that's another very big victory. So the team, I think, is starting to figure its game out a bit, which is good. Obviously took a little bit longer than I was expecting, but at least we're starting to figure it out a little bit more. All right, so somebody's on waivers. Oh, it's former defenseman of ours, Cameron Rudder. We don't need him. He signed for 3 years at $2.255. He's an okay defenseman, but I don't need him. He's an enforcer, too, if I remember right. So let's go through 3 games. We have Pittsburgh, Philly, and Seattle. Philly's a pretty big game just because they are the team that's chasing us. They do have the same amount of games played now. Let's see what happens this week. Pittsburgh is a 6-3 victory. Philadelphia is a 5-4 victory. Seattle's a 2-1 shootout loss. We've only had 1 game going back all the way to here. Yeah, so almost a month we've only had 1 game where we lost in regulation. So this is the best stretch for this team, and that could be definitely what helps us get into that playoff spot. So that's huge. We're starting to make up some ground quite a bit. Let's continue to go. Let's do another 4 games. We have Nashville, Columbus, Utah, and Dallas. Let's see if we could continue that good stretch that we're on right now. Nashville is a loss in regulation. So there's our first regulation loss in a month, but we do beat Columbus afterwards. We lose to Utah 2-1, and Dallas is a 2-0 win. Okay. I'll take it. Nashville's an okay team, but the lose to them kind of sucks. Losing to Utah makes sense. They're a good team right now. But we did beat Columbus, who's above us. And we beat Dallas, who's not very good right now. So, a couple more games left to go. Nashville, Colorado. And then that'll be it for February. And then we got only one more game to simulate through, which is against the Canucks. Govin Shipley for a third and a fourth. No, I'm not trading for draft picks here. Nashville's a 3-2 loss, so they beat us in 2 times in the last 2 weeks, which kind of sucks, but oh well. Colorado is a 3-2 win, so nice response. And yeah, this team has found itself, I think, a little bit. Let's do one more game against Vancouver, and then we'll stop simulating at this point in time. Vancouver is a 4-0 win. Yeah, that's a really good stretch for this team. 33-24-4. We were right around 500, but now we have kind of taken the reins a bit. And now this team's probably in a good spot here come playoff time. We are 6 points up on the Flyers with a game in hand, which is huge. We're 7 points up on the Rangers with the exact same amount of games played. 10 points up on the Hurricanes, same amount of games. Yeah, that's looking good in terms of maybe clinching down this Metropolitan Division spot. We're only 3 points back of the Penguins still too, so we could definitely catch them if we want to. And then in terms of the Atlantic Division, it is still super strong. Like, if we were in the Atlantic, we would not be in the playoff spot right now. So we're kind of lucky. But yeah, that Atlantic Division is super, super strong. The Sabres are below 500 now, but everybody else is above 500 in that division. So it makes sense maybe why we lost a lot of games early on in the year, because we had games against Atlantic Division opponents. So with that said, let's take a look at some stats and see what's going good for this team and what isn't. And then we'll obviously see if there's any adjustments to make in the next episode. But in terms of goals for per game, you can see we are 15th. So our offense is kind of mid-table, which is not terrible, but it's not great. Goals against per game, we are 6th in the league, so still playing great defensively. We are 24th on the power play, so the power play needs some work quite a bit. And then the penalty kill is 8th. So offensively, not the best. And then defensively, pretty strong. Pretty strong. So let's take a look at some stats here and see if there's anybody that's underperforming that we might have to think about moving out to try and upgrade in that area instead. So what do we got here in terms of player stats? So centers to start, Mackinnon on 44 points, Ashton on 40, and Jocelyn on 40. That's pretty much is what I was expecting from all three of these guys. They're all very similar players, but they're all doing pretty damn good so far. So I will definitely take that. Jocelyn's fit here pretty well. Ashton's doing better than I was expecting, maybe a bit. And then Mackinnon is still playing good despite being 35 years old at this point. Pollock on 14 points, -8. Not the best defensive results, but 14 points is solid for Pollock. And Menino barely played. Left wing side of things, Ragnarson's on 59 points, which I think it said was the leader in points on our team. 18 goals for him. Kazanov's on 51 points. He's having a good year. Obviously being a pending free agent. Trotter on 34 points, not bad. Crane on 31 and a -10. So our captain has regressed quite a bit here, which is unfortunate for him. Yeah, 31 points is still not bad for his age, I guess, but -10 kind of sucks. Gerard, 19 points, -5. Markstrom had those 4 points in 9 games. Pretty solid. And then from a right wing perspective, Harris, 39 points, not bad for his age. Dempsey, 32, and Lysak, 13, and he's also -10. From a defensive standpoint, Holmstrom's on 38 points, +18. Schaefer, 19 points, +24. Smith, 15 points. Ekblad, 13. Jersina, 12, -5, though. And then Strombo, 8 points, -11. So we could definitely look to upgrade that top 6 defensive pairing, because these two guys usually play together mostly. So that's maybe an area we'd look to upgrade as our top 6 defensive pairing in the next episode. So that, and then also maybe we find somebody that could help us score more goals. Like, we're a good defensive team apparently, except for that pairing, but we need to find a good bona fide scorer, because we're never having guys that are like point per game pretty much on this team. So that might be something we'd look into depending on the cost. And then from a goaltending perspective, both goalies have been solid. Irwin's rocking a 909, and Bergenheim's building off of a really good rookie year with a 910. So yeah, these two goalies are looking nice, which is great. All right. So there is that. Let's take a look at briefly around the league too while we're at it, just to see who's leading the league in points and stuff like that. at this point in the season because it's kind of fun just to do that. So currently it's Escalante in Pittsburgh who's in our division leading in points. Most goals so far is Gustavo Noonan of Vegas. 49 goals already for him. Best defenseman so far is McArdle in Montreal at 51 points. All right. Best goalie so far in terms of wins. Esteban Nicholas is killing it in Edmonton. Oh my god, he might win a Vezina this season too. Holy shit, man. Nicholas, I don't understand why he's all of a sudden so good in Edmonton. Like, I traded him to Edmonton thinking we'd get actually a high up pick, and then Edmonton actually is really good apparently. And yeah, since he's joined the Oilers, he's been completely lights out. Playoff-wise last year, he won a Stanley Cup with a 942. So far this season, he's got a 931. Man, maybe we should have held on to Nicholas longer. He's definitely worth the money he's getting paid now at this point in time, but he's been insane. Absolutely insane. All right, so there's that. Best rookie so far this season is going to be currently Matthias Dackel of the Rangers. All right, so there is that. Okay, so we might need a couple things. Our team has definitely figured its game out a bit quite lately. 6-3-1 in our last 10 games, but that top 6 defensive pairing has been a little bit iffy. And then also we haven't scored as much as we should. Our power play has been abysmal. Is there some options out there that could help us score more goals, maybe? Like kind of like an upgrade like what we did a couple years ago with Lockhart, Harris last year, that type of thing. Like, is there an upgrade in that area? And is there an upgrade for our top 6 defensive pairing like we did a couple years ago as well when we brought in, I think it was Bannister? Because those would be the areas I'd look to address maybe next episode if you guys think it makes sense. So Wilford's a sniper. We've seen him before, but he doesn't get a lot of playing time, it seems like. And also Buffalo's been kind of struggling. I don't think he's really the best player in the world, even though he's listed as a second-line forward. Erickson, who used to play with us, is more of a center, but he's good offensively, but not the scorer I don't think we need. This guy's a top 6 defenseman, probably. Actually, this is a top 4, but he's more offensive, which I would prefer. Maybe we do need an OFD. Because Howden usually would drive our offensive defenseman stats up a little bit. But Holmstrom's an OFD too, so maybe not. Lindsay is an 84. Looks pretty good. Oh yeah, he used to play with us. I forgot about Lindsay. Yeah. I remember him now. He's only signed for 1 year, but he's listed as a top 4, so it would have to demote somebody to the top 6, basically. And then there's Axelson. He's not going to score a lot of goals, but he is a good playmaker. But I don't think he's really what I need. From a Calgary standpoint, nothing really there. Yeah, Carolina's got nothing either, it doesn't look like. Just prospects. Chicago's got a defenseman, but he's making $6 million for 5 years. Don't want that for my top 6. Semyonov is signed for 3 years. Probably not want somebody I want. Malmavar's only a 78. Colorado's got this Eberle guy. Arneson as a depth defenseman. Conklin is a kind of depth / top 6 guy. What about Columbus? Nothing really in Columbus, unfortunately. Dallas, that's more of a depth forward type of scenario. Detroit, not seeing a whole lot. There's not really a lot on the block here early on. It's kind of strange. It's mostly a bunch of guys that won't even be NHL caliber right now. Montreal, Ziuk, no, not really. Nashville, no. New Jersey has that goalie on the block. They also do have Ovechkin, but he signed for 6 years at 5.5. Gaudette as a scorer is not a bad depth forward. We used to have him, but he's not really what we need. We don't really even need a depth scorer, almost in a sense. We need more of an actual elite scorer if we were to bring in one. Aside from that, I think we need a top 6 defenseman. Like, Hemingway might not be that bad. He doesn't have the best defensive awareness, but maybe he's a good top 6 defenseman. There's an OFD in Ollie, who's also listed as a top 6, who's been playing a couple games, but he's more of an AHLer. But if we want more offense from the back end, this guy might be able to help a bit. Tough to say. There's also D'Agostini. He's only 25. He's not that bad. He's actually pretty good defensively. He might not be a bad option. He's actually apparently a good fit for our top 6 too. So right now I think this guy's probably the one I'd look into, Zane D'Agostini from our New York Rivals. Sugehara as a backup goalie is pretty good, but we don't need goalies. And then there's Reese, who's in the AHL at the moment. I think D'Agostini right now might be my target. I don't know if he's a higher overall. Probably he is only a 78, but I think he could be an upgrade a bit maybe from Strombo, but it's tough to say. Like, he's pretty similar to Strombo at this point. Aside from that, Ottawa's got a coin who's making a ton of money and listed as a second-line forward. It's probably losing morale. I can't see him dropping off that much, but you never know. Scrivens is a sniper, 16 goals. He's not that bad as a goal scorer. Does fit our top 6, but I don't know if he would really provide something we don't have. These other guys are kind of like fringe scorers. Philadelphia, these guys are kind of fringe scorers too. Voutilainen's more of a two-way. Only signed for 1 year. 29 points. That's not that bad. But like when I say an elite scorer, I actually mean an elite scorer. There is also Cutler for the top 6 pairing. He's not as good defensively in terms of awareness as the other guy that we were looking at on the Rangers, but he's got good shot blocking and stick checking. Might fit our defensive pairings, but he's only signed for the 1 year as well. Pittsburgh, Sierra, who used to play with us, but $6 million is kind of high. We know that he's a pretty solid defenseman too. Does fit all of our pairings, apparently. We could bring back Sierra, but he is making 6.2, which is a bit high. Aside from that, San Jose at depth kind of forwards and Valaketin, Sea-Doo, same as Zanin. Seattle's got nothing. St. Louis has Gerbeshkov as a right winger. 19 goals this season. He is a sniper. Oh, yeah, I remember this dude. Okay, this guy's actually pretty good, but his awareness has dropped off because he's 35 years old. Had 74 points last year, doing 42 goals, so definitely a down year for him. But he is a decent player. But I don't know if he would be worth the value. It's not really that high value. Maybe he'd be good, but I feel like he's just basically as good as Dempsey, or if not, a little bit worse. Sadikov as an 83. He's pretty close to retirement too. Only 11 goals as a sniper. This guy's not that great. Alright, Tampa. Not seeing a lot there either. Toronto has Lockhart on the block, who obviously we had at one point, but 7.8 is too much for me. There's Canone. There's Ekman, who's only signed for 1 year, but $14 million bucks, which is a bit expensive. Naslund signed for 2 years. Sniper as well, but once again, only 11 goals. And then there's Huxley. Utah has nothing. Vancouver has Curry on as an offensive defenseman. Pretty good offensive defenseman, to be honest. 40 points this year. But I don't think he'd be worth the cost, probably. We don't even need to upgrade our defense that much, like our top 6 pairing maybe, but not our top 4. Vorobyov, we don't need a goaltender. Vegas has just prospects on the block. Washington's got Jeffrey as an offensive defenseman on the block. But the thing is, he is not producing well this year. 21 points only in 60 games after 50 points last year. I don't know if he's getting way less ice time, but that's kind of surprising. Only a minute less, so he's just having a really big down year, which means it's not really worth that type of money or value. McKay on 1 year left. There's Stewart as a depth sniper, not really that great. Shea as a depth player, not really interesting either, I don't think. Yeah, I'm not really seeing a whole lot, to be honest. Yeah, there's nothing really good on the block in terms of upgrading our offense or our defense that much. I mean, defense, maybe we could get in a new top 6 defenseman to replace Strombo, but offensively, I really didn't see anything that really screamed that good to us. If we go, let's see, actually, let's go to the player search function for a second here. And we're going to see who's the best shooters around the league, who may be somebody we could acquire. Like, who's got good shooting categories, basically. And that way we could kind of see if there's anybody that can maybe help us out on the goal scoring department. So, if we look at shooting, let's make it at least a 4-star shooting category. And let me remove my face so you guys can see all these details. So here is the guys with the good shooting around the league. Let's actually sort it by the shooting category as well while we're at it. If I can remember where this is. Where is it? Is it the first thing? I think it was, right? Yeah. Let's sort this. So here's the 5-star shooters, and then there's also some 4-stars. But if you guys see anybody here with 1 year left that would make sense to bring in, maybe, let me know. I know a lot of these guys are probably on playoff teams at the moment. Gogol's only got 1 year left, no extension. Who is this Gogol dude, and is he on a playoff team at the moment? Probably. I don't know if the Calgary Flames are in a playoff spot. He's only got 18 goals despite being that good of a shooter. Kind of a high value, though. But left wing, right wing, 5-star shooting categories is fantastic. But he's not been scoring a ton. Who else has 1 year left? Ash is only 22, so that doesn't make sense. Spalling with 1 year left. Kelly Spalling, he is -8, so the Blues aren't doing the best. He's also a 5-star shooter, but he does not simulate like one. Rintoul, $15 million for 1 year. 24 goals this season. 5-star shooter. Good offensive awareness. Rintoul's actually pretty good. Rintoul is pretty good, but his cost is a bit expensive, but we could probably take it for the year. Actually, we'd have to get rid of cap, basically, to bring him in. That's the only problem, because we only have 9.795. Yeah, it would be nice to get Rintoul, but I think we'd have to get rid of like a $6 million cap hit, which I don't know if that's going to be that easy for us. Aside from that, anybody else with 1 year left that could be interesting? Hunt. I know somebody did mention about Hunt, I think, a couple seasons ago. 20 goal scorer, only signed for 1 year with no extension in place. Very low cap hit. Yeah, you know what? That might actually be the play already. I don't think we're even going to look at anybody else. If we want to bring in another goal scorer, he had a good year last year. This year, so much. A little bit of a down year, but he is a 20 goal scorer right now. Isaiah Hunt would be pretty good from Croatia, from the Blue Jackets. But the Blue Jackets, I think, are in a playoff spot, so it doesn't make realistic sense. I'm not sure. Where are they actually in the standings now? Because I know they were above us. They're still above us. I don't know if they'd really want to part ways with somebody that's that good right now. So maybe we didn't look at Hunt, but it's tough to say. But if I go to find trade on Hunt right now, let's see. It probably wouldn't cost us a lot, but I don't know what we give up. We could probably give up prospects or something, but if we go find trade on him, it would cost us Smith in a 7th. I'm not doing Smith. Crane a 3rd and a 4th. I can't move out our captain. Trotter a 3rd and a 6th. Can't do that. Svedberg a 3rd and a 4th. He is in the AHL right now, but he's likely NHL bound next year. And then Pollock a 3rd and a 4th. I wouldn't probably do that, but that's probably the closest I would do. So I don't really know if he would make much sense. Aside from that, though, the defenseman that we were looking at, like on the Rangers, and I think it was also on Philadelphia. Let's briefly take a look at how much they would cost us at the moment. Let's sort this by overall. It was D'Agostini. There's a bit of a logjam on defense on the Rangers. A 7th round pick to maybe upgrade our defense. I don't think that's a bad option. So that could be definitely something we look into for upgrading our defensive core. Aside from that, there was also the guy in Philadelphia, who I think was pretty similar. In Cutler, he's a little bit higher overall. He would only cost us a 5th. So literally, we could probably easily upgrade that defensive spot, but we'd probably have to end up using Strombo as a depth defenseman, or we trade Strombo away after the fact. But yeah, defensively, I think we could upgrade our top 6 defensive pairing. In terms of getting ourselves an actual bona fide scorer, I mean, Hunt could be a decent player, but does it make sense from a realistic standpoint? Probably not. Let me look back at the players in the league for a second here. I'm going to go back to the player stats screen. I'm going to sort by shooting percentage and make a minimum games about like 50, so we can kind of see who's the most like maybe underrated player in the league that could help us out in terms of goal scoring. So let's sort off by shooting percentage, and then we're going to be the minimum games, 40 games. Let's see who's a good bang for our buck. So there's Henry Delmore, 11 goals. D'Agostini on 35 goals on 172 shots. He is not in a playoff spot right now. Technically, the teams like Florida and Ottawa, who are really good, they might not be in a playoff spot, so we might be able to finesse them into maybe making a trade. Delmore, like I said, is not the greatest. He's more of a bottom 6 scoring option. Frolov, oh, it actually does go through that. Let's go through this like this. 35 goals, though, for Agostini's incredible. He is a two-way forward, bottom 6, he fits, but that cap hit, kind of too high for me. Schmaltz, does he have 1 year left? He's also an Ottawa 30 goal scorer, fits our top 6. 2 years left on a nice little contract, 3.5. 20 goal scorer last year. He's definitely a young option, so I don't know if it makes sense for them to move him, but he's Pretty good 30-goal scorer. Yeah, he's not bad. He's only 81, though, but he's been really good so far this season. Any other underrated scores here? 49 goals for Noonan. We know about Noonan because he's, like, leading the league. Trudeau, 14. Svatos, 20. 27 from Leo Carlson. He's 43 years old. 46 from Hacker Reinen. They're leading the division. Trotter's up there in shooting percentage, which is nice. So all these guys are high percentage shooters. Cedric Taylor in Boston. I think they might be playoff spot right now. Maybe not. 29 goals in 60 games. He's only 23 years old, though, so he's got to have good potential. Yeah, he was drafted 20th overall recently. Doesn't make the most sense for them to move him at this point. Also signed for 3 years. I think if I'm looking into any of these guys to trade for based off shooting percentage alone, I could probably look at somebody like Schmaltz in Ottawa. Yeah, he'd probably be the best bang for our buck. But would Ottawa trade him? I honestly have no idea. Like I said, right now, Ottawa's not in the best of spots because they're in a really tight division. If we go back to that Atlantic, yeah, see, they're not in a playoff spot right now. They could still make it, but they might not make it because of how tight this division is. So let's go to the fine trade option and see what it cost for Schmaltz in Ottawa. And then I think that'll be it for this episode at this point. But might not be a bad deal to swing with them if they don't end up making the playoffs. Schmaltz was a right winger or a left winger? Right winger, okay. He's only an 81, so it's not a huge upgrade in terms of that. But we'd only have to give up, say, something like Karostin and Dempsey. Dempsey would basically get upgraded into Schmaltz, and he's a cheaper cap hit. Dempsey a third and a fourth. Trotter a third and a seventh. Svedberg a third and a fourth. And Pritchett straight up. Pritchett's a goalie prospect we don't really need probably at this point, so that might not be a bad option. Okay. So we do have some ideas, at least in terms of what we could upgrade in terms of our goal scoring and that top 6 defensive pairing. So anyways, guys, that's going to do it for this episode of New York Islanders franchise mode. So in next episode, we'll take it to the trade deadline. We might make some upgrades defensively and also offensively. We'll simulate the rest of the season and see if we end up making the playoffs. So far, it's been an inconsistent season, but the last month or so, this team has found its game. So I think we will be a playoff team. But we're lucky we're just not in the Atlantic Division, because if we were Atlantic Division, we would definitely probably not be a playoff team, despite having a good year. So think down below, and I'll see you guys next time.